This is the Venturing Angler Podcast. I'm Tim Harden. In this episode, I'll be chatting with Keith Rosinas about fly fishing in the Seychelles. Let's chat with Keith. All right, we're here with Keith Rosinas of the Alphonse Fishing Company. This is a conversation I've been wanting to have for a long time. And so, Keith, it's great to have you here.
Yeah, great to be on.
Let's first talk about where the Seychelles are. I think people know that it's out there. Some people know more generally where the Seychelles are. How would you describe this to an audience that may or may not know?
Simply put, it's just above Madagascar and just below the Maldives. So it's the difference between the Seychelles is you have the northern inner islands, and then you have the outer islands. Now, the inner islands are generally the islands which are close to the main island of Mahe. And those islands are mostly granitic. So they got some high mountains, generally don't have any flats around them. So they're not ideal for fly fishing. There's obviously a population there, so they've been fished. But as soon as you move away from the main islands, i.e. the inner islands, you move down south, you get the coral islands. Now, the difference between the coral islands and the granitic is obviously granitic's granite, and these coral islands were, a long time ago, they were obviously volcanoes. And as the volcanoes subsided into the ocean, because the matter that they're made from is heavier than the ocean bed, so the coral grew up from the rim, the top rim of the atoll, towards the sky, and then obviously towards the sun, and then what happened is that the coral formed on these lips, the lip of the volcano, and as it subsided even more, so the coral grew more and more and more, and then the sand got deposited on it and formed these lagoons, and then obviously you get with all the buildup that's been created, you get obviously palm trees and so forth that eventually grow on top of those, and then you get a unique atoll system, which is a lagoon surrounded by reef. So you have these incredible systems of very deep water, very close to a lagoon edge. And then once you come inside the lagoon, you obviously have wonderful white sand flats and shallow areas, which is really, really good for all your fly fishing species like bonefish, permit, milkfish, giant trevally, triggerfish, and numerous other species.
And am I mistaken? It's about 1,000 miles off the coast of South Africa.
It's a hell of a lot further than that.
Okay.
So it's 1,000 nautical miles, around 1,000, just over 1,000 nautical miles away from Tanzania or Kenya or places like that. So it's from South Africa, it's probably 3 times that, maybe 3,000 miles or more. It's probably more than that. It's a long way from South Africa.
And you're in the Indian Ocean.
Indian Ocean, yes. Our closest island to Madagascar is Cosmolito, which is 160 nautical miles away from the northern point of Madagascar. So it's really close to Madagascar. But then obviously from there, it takes 3 hours by air to get to Mahe, which is the main island. So it gives you an idea of how far apart all the different atolls we have are dispersed. Our closest atoll from Mahe, which is the main island, is an hour flight, and our furthest one is 3 hours flight. So it's a long, long way south from your typical inner island.
Just generally, I know you gave some of the logistics there, but if someone's coming from the United States, what would that travel look like? Okay,
so if you're flying from the States, generally people would fly in with Emirates or with a European airline. And that flight generally is between about 20 hours, around that. And then once you arrive in Mahe, you would either overnight or you'd arrive early in the morning and you would jump straight into our charter flight. And then the flights from Mahe to our islands vary between 1 hour and 2 hours in the air. All the flights do go via Alphonse Island. That's our central hub. And then you obviously stop for breakfast or loo break or whatever, and jump back on the plane, and then fly on to Cosmolito, Stove, Farquhar, wherever it is. And then depending on the atoll from there, from a Stove, if you wanted to get to Cosmolito, it's an hour boat ride from there as well, because we don't have any runways on Cosmolito. It's completely wild. But Alphonse, Stove, Farquhar, all have runways.
Okay, and so you did name some of the specific destinations there, and I think a lot of familiarity that people have with these places comes from the good amount of video content that's been coming from these places. And so there's Cosmolito, Farquhar, a Stove. Are there others?
From a fishing point of view, and from a distance point of view, we start with Alphonse Island, which is which is the closest to Mahe, which is the main island. And that's an hour flight from Mahe. It's more of a resort, but it has incredible fishing. The difference is that people say, well, if there's a resort quite close by, will it affect the fishing? No, it does not, because St. Francois is the atoll which we fish, which is a 30-minute boat ride across from St. Francois, from Alphonse every morning, and it's uninhabited. The beauty about Alphonse is that it has villas and suites and beach bungalows, and it caters to non-fishing persons as well. So if you wanted to bring your loved ones with you, they are fully entertained with all sorts of activities, diving, snorkeling, nature walks, all those kind of things in the resort, while they are well taken care of, and you go across and do your fly fishing. Then as you come more south, Alphonse is actually also synonymous with incredible amounts of bonefish, huge population of bonefish. It also is well known for the place where the first milkfish was ever caught on fly, and it attributes to probably 80% of the world's milkfish caught every single year. So incredible milk fishing. It also has all the other species. It has GTs, triggerfish, and so forth. As you move south, or southeast, an hour further by plane, we have Farquhar. Farquhar only caters to 10 anglers, and the difference between Farquhar and Alphonse is that it has less bonefish, but it has Bumphead Parrotfish. Now, it's the only one of our destinations that has Bumphead Parrotfish. All the others, the Bumphead Parrotfish tend to stay offshore, and we don't have a chance of catching them in the shallows while they're tailing. Then when you start moving westly, we have a Stove. Now, a Stove has a runway as well, so it's an hour flight from Alphonse to a Stove. It's a very small atoll, so we only have 6 rods fishing per day. There's a very narrow and shallow lagoon entrance, plus it has a big expanse of white flats on the inside of the lagoon. There is a nursery for incredible amounts of bonefish and juvenile baitfish, which is fantastic for the hunting of GTs. It's incredible GT fishing, and has fantastic permit fishing and so forth. It's GT numbers-wise, it's our second highest numbers of GTs. But it's incredible fishery. Sometimes it fishes better than Cosmolito, depending on certain times and weather. Sometimes Cosmolito fishes better. So it's very similar in GT numbers to Cosmolito. Then you go slightly more to the west, and then you'll find Cosmolito. On Cosmolito, we have no runway. So guests all fly to a Stove first, and then it's a quick hour-long boat ride across to Cosmolito. Then you're in the Galapagos of the Indian Ocean. One big lagoon with 20 islands around it. Most incredible place. And there we only do 12 rods per week on a weekly basis, and we do it for all our lodges. We do between 28 and 30 weeks of the year, no more than that. With the Stove, we reduce the rods. We only do probably about 16 weeks at a Stove.
I think if anybody in the last 10 years has asked me what my number 2 destinations are to go to for freshwater and saltwater, it's always Kamchatka and Seychelles. I know why I want to go there. I know why a lot of people have the same exact answer. What for you, and I think a lot of listeners got a sense of what the answer might be when you just broke down all of the species, but what for you makes the Seychelles so remarkable? And as you know, it's not easy to get there. People are signing up as quickly as they can. What's driving this? What makes it so special?
Well, the thing about Seychelles is obviously, number one is the diversity. So you have so many different species you can catch. Number two, I mean, the nature around it. All these atolls are untouched. Every one of the fisheries which we fish are exclusive. There's no one else there. There's very little human pressure there. Then on top of that, you have white sand flats, and they're hard white sand flats. So you can walk and catch most of the species on foot. You don't have to fish from a skiff. It's just incredible environment that you're in all the time while you're there. I mean, crystal clear water. You know, the amounts of fish, incredible amounts of fish that are there. It's like, you know, it's an experience that you'll be able to find anywhere else. But, you know, also a unique experience that, you know, especially when guests are flying from the States, they often don't want to fly all the way to the Seychelles for a simple 7-day trip with 6 days of fishing. They like to generally spend either 10 days or a week. And the beauty with the circuit that we have for the different lodges is that you are able to include any of the outer atolls that we have, Farquhar, Stove, Cosmolido, with additional stay at Alphonse. And all the flights go via Alphonse. So you get the opportunity to acclimatize when you arrive by staying at Alphonse, or to put your feet up afterwards after the trip and fish a little bit around Alphonse. So it's a combination of all the experiences together. Obviously, the accommodation is really good, and then on top of the whole thing, the whole pyramid, the cherry on top of the cake is obviously our guides. We have incredibly good guides. Guides have been guiding with us for many years. Guys which have the ability to make the trip for you, not only from a fishing point of view, but also a personality point of view. They're incredibly good at teaching people how to cast. They're terribly good at making beginners feel comfortable. And that's how we work. I mean, we've got a very different guiding program to most guiding organizations, where we do obviously rotate our guides through the week. You don't stay with one guide. Our guides are tipped as a pool, which means that they have to make sure that even the youngest guide is pulling his weight and he's taking care of the guests, because anything negative will affect the entire team. And then we obviously encourage the guys to talk on radio. So we often will discuss things between the team constantly all day. The plans are made for the day as a team. So, you know, and then we have the camaraderie. So all of our lodges, we invite our staff to the bar in the evenings. So they socialize with the guests, and they socialize and they talk about the day's fishing. So you almost leave the islands or the destinations feeling as part of the family. And all the anglers get to meet each other, everyone gets along, and it's just a great experience.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard that sentiment over and over and over again from people. And people, you know, I spend a lot of time with guides. It seems as though a common experience is that that there will be guides or industry professionals, fly fishing industry professionals, who will go and visit your destinations and be amazed with the staff and the professionalism. I heard that most recently from JT Van Zandt, who was just, I think, so impressed with his experience there, and it was great to see some of that action in a new Yeti video for those who are looking to see more. But it sounds like the guides are a big part of the operation, and I've been seeing the names of the same guides connected with you year after year after year, and so that says a lot too. Let's look at some of these fish. So I think the main one for a lot of people is giant trevally. Some listeners are very familiar with giant trevally, some might not be. What is it about these fish?
I mean, the most important thing about a giant trevally is that, you know, when he wants to eat the fly, he eats it. It's a ferocious take. It's not a case of, hey, I'm going to try and fool this guy to come and nip at the fly and then decide whether he wants to eat it. He decides whether he wants to eat it or not. So, and at first, you know, when you make that first cast and you experience that first rush of a GT when he's coming towards you, I think anglers often get confused whether the fish is actually coming for them or the fly. So there's an additional bit of a adrenaline rush there, and you realize that, you know, okay, when he's coming for you, the eyes are obviously above their mouths, and we never fish thinking lines. We're only fishing floating lines on the surface. So when you're stripping that fly as fast as you have to strip it to entice that fish, they are coming at a rate of knots with their eyes out the water. So their eyes are dilated, trying to look at that fly. Their mouths are open and their heads are completely above the water. So it almost looks like they're looking you in the eye. So it's an incredibly exciting experience. And then obviously once you hook them, the ferocious runs, incredibly dirty fish, love to find structure, heading off out in the blue yonder. And, because of the scenario that you're in and obviously having to stop that fish, it becomes a tug of war. It's not a matter of, let the fish run and tire itself out. It's a matter of, let me stop him before he gets to any sort of coral or sharp flat edge or anything like that he can cut you off. So it really is a tug of war, and it's very adrenaline oriented. It's very exciting. So I think that's part and parcel, and one of the main reasons why everyone loves fishing for giant trevally. The beauty about giant trevally is they're often in the same areas as all the other species. So often you'll be fishing for bonefish and catching bonefish, and the GT will appear. So it's a matter of changing your rod over, getting ready, and making a cast for a giant trevally. And they tend to pop out at any one time, so you've got to be ready at all times. And that's where the good guiding comes in. The good guides, while you're fishing for a bonefish or a permit or a milkfish or whatever it is you're fishing for, a triggerfish, they have the rod ready. They have it in their right hand or have it in their left hand or have it in their backpack or somewhere close by, and they spot that fish so that you know that, it's a quick switch. You throw the 9-weight or the 10-weight or 8-weight to your guide, and he'll throw the 12-weight to you. Get it up and ready and put the fly wherever you can, as close as you can to the fish within an area that doesn't spook it, and then strip. That's the beauty about it. So, you can only understand the Seychelles once you've been there. It gets quite confusing at some stage because there's just so much going on. There's a triggerfish close to you, or there's a permit close to you. There's some bonefish coming. Oh, there's a milkfish, and then you see a GT on top of it. So sometimes you don't know what you should be going for. So that's the beauty about the whole thing. There's a lot of adrenaline when fishing in the Seychelles when the fishing's really on.
That image of people having two rods just in case, I think speaks a lot to how thrilling and unique of a destination it is there. And these giant trevally, how big do they get?
So we would generally say a trophy GT would be over a meter. So anywhere from a meter and above is a trophy fish. It's a big fish. But generally, we'd be catching fish anywhere from the 65 centimeters and above. That's your general average size. But I would say on average, each destination probably gets between 2 and 10 GTs over a meter. A very big GT would be a meter 25. And then you're talking like monster GTs are over like a meter 25, which would be sort of like, we've heard of them being caught up to 155, but fish that I've seen have been around 145, 150. I'm talking about on the flats, not called offshore. Obviously, offshore you can catch bigger fish and conventional stuff in other places. But on the flats, we only do fly fishing for giant trevally. We don't allow any conventional stuff. So we're talking a really, really, really big monster. Would be like a 135 centimeter fish, and that's well in the 100 pounds. So he's over 100 pounds, and he's got more than 100 pounds worth of attitude as well.
Do they break a lot of rods?
They do. They break a lot of rods. They break a lot of lines. They put reels through their paces. If a reel has any flex in it, they will make that reel flex. If a reel has a bad drag or a drag that can't put much pressure on, or the amount of pressure you need, it will push it to the limit. It will spool that reel. So it all depends on where you hook the fish. If you have the ability to follow on foot, if you have the ability to jump in the skiff and follow on the skiff. So it all depends on the area. If you're going to fish on the ocean front, and generally you won't have a skiff near you because you're fishing very close to the surf edge. You hook a really big GT there, you've got to make sure that your tackle is up to speed. A good reel that has huge amounts of braking power because he's going to spool you.
That's amazing. And getting back to the species diversity, I saw a video once, and I think it was at one of your destinations, where a guy is fighting a GT and a shark comes and starts chasing the GT. And so I can't imagine that happens too frequently, but there's...
It does happen. I mean, the thing is that, that definitely does happen. The most important thing is that, a healthy ecosystem must have sharks. So the more healthy the ecosystem, the more sharks you have. Obviously, the sharks mustn't be attracted into unnatural behavior, which is normally associated with feeding them and so forth. So then they'll come in and prey on all your stuff. But for us, if we have 5 GTs eaten by sharks in a season, that's been a bad year.
Wow.
It doesn't happen often. Often the giant trevally will feed with sharks. So you have a huge shark, a 10-foot shark, and you'll have 2 GTs sitting right on its back, waiting for whatever it misses or whatever it's eating or whatever it spooks. So they have quite a symbiotic relationship. GTs feed off rays as well. You see it quite often, and then obviously sharks. I mean, various different species of sharks. So they do have a good relationship with them. But generally, I mean, I would say the king of the flats is actually the giant trevally. I mean, they have serious attitude. I mean, they're not scared of any shark.
That's wild. With respect to other fish, you mentioned bonefish earlier. It's different than, I mean, I've been to the Bahamas. I love the Bahamas, but it's different in the sense that there are the Bahamas might be one of the ultimate destinations for bonefish, but yours are generally quite large, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so well, I think on average, Bahamas would generally be bigger. I mean, the Bahamas does have really, really big bonefish. I mean, we have some big ones, but I don't think as big as Bahamas. But the good thing about the Seychelles is that there's a lot more bonefish. There's a hell of a lot, and obviously the numbers vary between the destinations. With Alphonse being the destination that has the most bonefish. But obviously, you know, with big schools of bonefish, you generally get smaller fish, 2, 3, 4 pounders, that's that kind of size. But you know, on certain tide cycles, they tend to school up, and then you obviously have all the fish which are on other places, like on the surf end and back of certain atolls on the points back of certain islands on the points of certain islands. And those are generally the bigger fish, the singles and doubles. There's no shortness of amount of bonefish. It just depends on where you would like to fish for them. The beauty about having the big schools is for beginners, you know, they can go and get rack up quite a few numbers of bonefish, and then they can go and decide, okay, I'm getting better, and I'll go and target the more difficult singles and doubles, bigger fish on different places. Places like Cosmolino and the Stove and Farquhar have very big bonefish. Every season we catch fish over 10 pounds. But to say if we ever had anything above 12 pounds, I would say would be a bit of a fib. I would say the biggest fish we've probably got is around close on 11 pounds, no bigger.
Double digits is pretty big, though.
It's a big fish.
Yeah. You have a species of permit that's at least unique to the Indian Ocean, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so we have the Indo-Pacific permit. You get them where we are. You obviously get them up in Australia, and you get them in areas of Oman and also on the African coast. With regards to Indo-Pacific permit, we probably have the most prolific fishery in the Seychelles with the biggest number of Indo-Pacific permit, situated on a group of islands called the Amarantes chain. In the Amarantes chain, there are 2 significant atolls which we fish, which is St. Joseph's and Poivre. And on Poivre, it has 2 little islands, and St. Joseph's has 3 or 4 little islands, very close to each other. St. Joseph's has more white sand and Poivre less. Depending on the tides, we choose between the 2. But in any one given day, you can fish to between 5 and 50 in the Pacific permit, all tailing and so forth, depending obviously on the weather and tidal movement. And for that destination, we have a liverboard, a 50-foot catamaran, which we cater to 4 guests. And we have 2 skiffs which follow the catamaran. And I mean, it's an incredible trip if you want to live on a small boat very close to atolls and have the diversity move between the atolls, comfortable, and you get the most incredible Indo-Pacific permit fishing at the same time.
And as you described that, I remember now seeing some good images of you with these fish in the Wessels, I believe, from that trip. That was in...
Yeah, fish. Yeah, they have up in the Wessels, they have two different species. They have the Indo-Pacific pemic and they have the anak as
Okay.
well. So, but the fishing is slightly different. There, the flats are slightly deeper. You're fishing a little bit more from the boat. Whereas typically the places which we're fishing in the Seychelles, the fish are in much shallower water. Obviously, the more shallow the water, the more difficult to fish. And we're generally fishing on mottled bottom, which is a combination of sand, turtle grass, and broken coral. Versus up in the vessels, you're fishing sort of slightly deeper flats, more white. Sometimes fish in sort of waist deep water, sort of mid water. Very different fishing. Same fish, but very different fishing. So you'd have to fish if you wanted to do it. You'd have to fish both places to experience the difference between having the same kind of species, but different kind of obviously way of fishing for them.
I do work for Off the Grid Studios, and there was an Off the Grid Studios project that was done at one of your destinations on milkfish. So let's talk for a moment about milkfish. Very unusual fish. Took a while for people to catch them, but it sounds like I think you said at Alphonse, there's some pretty good opportunities for anglers to take on milkfish.
Yeah, so I mean, the Seychelles has them all around the Seychelles. Just certain atolls have a lot more. Alphonse has a really strong population of milkfish. We're not too sure exactly how far they migrate, whether they actually just go offshore to spawn for long periods of time, and whether they're resident or not, or whether they're migrating through the different atolls all the way up into onto the top areas of Africa or not, up into Oman or UAE in those areas. But all year round, we have a small population of them around. But generally, with the population increasing significantly during the northwest winds, which is from September all the way until May, we generally have bigger populations of them. They come and go around the atolls, all the atolls during that time of the year. Calmer weather, you generally see way more because they're on the surface. But the population of milkfish is the most at Alphonse. Your best chance of catching a milkfish would be at Alphonse. Then all the other atolls like Cosmolido and Farquhar all have them. I would say that your second best chance of catching milkfish would be Cosmolido, and then Estow, Farquhar, and so forth. But the uniqueness, the most important thing about when you thinking about coming to the Seychelles and you decide to book is you need to talk to a person who understands it, so he can give you an indication of which destination will be best for the kind of fish you want to focus on, and then book it accordingly. And then you can obviously add or subtract from the trip and sort of tailor make a trip which suits you and suits what you would like to do. With milkfish, it depends on where you're seeing them, whether you'll be able to catch them or not. We often see them on the flats. They on the low tide, they feeding on the flats, and in that scenario, they're very difficult to catch. So the most important time to focus on milkfish is when they're sitting in the channels and you have flowing water, or offshore when they're in huge numbers. I'm talking numbers of 1,000 fish feeding in all different lanes and different heights, and then you're generally just placing the fly in front of them and creating a static drift of that algae pattern, which is either a green ram's wool or some sort of polar fiber of sorts, to create a static sort of drift of that fly. And the more natural you can make it look, the easier it is for these fish to pick it up and eat it. The thing with the milkfish is that he's not too sure what he should be when he fights. In the beginning of the fight, he thinks he's a marlin. Sort of mid-flight fight, he thinks he's a giant trevally. And right at the end, he thinks he's a yellowfin tuna, and he goes right down. So the thing with the milkfish is that they don't seem to build up any lactic acid. I mean, I know that a lot of people have said, but that can't be true. I mean, a fish can't build up lactic acid. I don't know whether it is true or not, but it doesn't seem as if they do, because they fight for an incredibly long time. Because they fight for an incredibly long time. With fights going over 2 hours for a fish which is 30, 40 pounds. So you work that out and you think, geez, it's incredible. But also, I mean, with those fish is obviously the size of their tail, and the shape of their body, which is incredibly streamlined and gives them incredible amounts of power and ability to fight for long periods. And obviously using in the deep ocean, they're able to use the currents and so forth. So it's incredibly strong fish. Pound for pound, the hardest fighting fish you will ever experience.
Wow. One fish that I can't even begin to describe is the bump-headed parrotfish. I've never seen anything like this. How would you describe this fish and how to pursue him?
Like the milkfish, the bumphead parrotfish was we deciphered how to catch him on fly in the Seychelles. I hadn't heard of them being caught anywhere else in the world. For many, many years, we used to experience them on the flats. I would see them while fishing for giant ravelli, with these big, beautiful animals tailing on the flats. We would make casts at them with trousers and various different patterns, and often they wouldn't respond. Sometimes we would be fishing for triggerfish, and they'd come past, and you would make a cast for the fish, and you would see a fish come past. You wouldn't see if he's eaten it or not, but you'd be hooked up, and once it came loose, you would see there'd be a scale on it. So you would think that, okay, well, these fish are definitely not eating anything that we can catch them on. But over the years, you learn and you watch them and you try and decipher, okay, what are these fish doing? And eventually we figure out that these fish eat crustaceans. They do. They're crushing up the coral. They're in between the weeds and so forth. So we started fishing little shrimps and little crab patterns for them. And as the weeks progressed, we could see them actually turning and eating the fly, with the ability for us to get a little bit closer each time to the fish and figuring out which channels they would take and so forth, and learning the lay of the land and sort of positioning ourselves in the right place, the current would be right. We could see these fish eating the fly. And we landed the first one on fly ever. I was with a guest, and we landed on on Providence. And then thereafter, we started catching them quite regularly. And the biggest problem wasn't really the hooking after that; it was the landing of them, because they're such big, powerful fish, huge caudals close to their tail that you can't even get your hand around them. We often refer to them as the Oompa Loompas of the flats, from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, or the Smurfs. They're big, docile fish, and they sort of feed as a herd, as a shoal. And if one fish spooks, they all spook. So they're quite intriguing in the way that it's almost like a big family of them, and they interact and they all move together, very close together. But the beauty about fishing for the species is that their tail. I mean, you get these huge blue tails coming out the water, very exciting. And you also need to fish quite a low rated rod for that size fish, i.e. a 10 weight rod or 9 weight rod. Reason being is you have to present quite nicely. You have to be able to present that fly to the right place, and you have to be accurate without creating too much, obviously, line drag and splash on the water. So it's very similar to presenting a fly to a permit, or presenting a fly to a triggerfish, where you need to place it in the right place. Except that we're fishing sort of 25 to 30 pound leaders. Once you hook that fish, it's almost impossible to stop him. He will go to where he wants to go, and generally he'll follow the school. So sometimes you'll back off a little bit on your pressure on your reel, and hopefully that fish will not just completely leave the flat. He will hang about semi-close to the flat. And if you manage to survive that part of the fight, generally you've got a good chance of landing him if he doesn't bite you off. Obviously, he's got a big beak, because he's a parrotfish, and there's a couple of little soft spots in the corners of the mouth where you can get purchased on the fly. Otherwise, generally it's a straightened hook, or a bitten in half hook, or a frayed off leader, or bitten off leader, and it start again.
And then that's fascinating. Then a fish that is interesting to me, and they exist on flats throughout the world, but you have some really compelling triggerfish. They're gorgeous. They're full of color. They fight hard. They also have weird teeth, just like the bumpies. Tell me about the trigger fishing.
So the trigger fishing is incredible, obviously, in the Seychelles. You're fishing for them in various different scenarios. So either in the surf zone, where you have the waves breaking and they're rolling and flapping in the shallows, or in the pancake flats, pancake and finger flats, which are basically the flats inside the lagoon, between the main big flats the inside the lagoon. So it's almost like fingers which run out on the edge of the flats that have a combination of coral, sand, and grass on them. And that's a very popular area for us to catch triggerfish. Now, the beauty about triggerfish is obviously they're extremely spooky. But if you can get past that and past them, they're quite difficult to hook because they've got these mouthful of molars, incredibly strong molars that will bite through a hook in a split second. And then if you do hook this fish, he knows exactly where every single hole drop off is on the flats. So you've got this whole sort of conundrum where you've got to fish for a fish which is spooky, and he's not going to eat a leader which is 30 or 40 pounds. You've got to fish like a maximum of like a 20-pound leader for him to eat. Once you hook him, you've got to apply just enough pressure not to straighten the hook, or not for him not to break the leader, or for him to go into his hole. So it's an incredible experience. It's a lot of fun because you don't catch them every cast. And if you catch one or two triggers on a trip, you've done really well because you probably hooked like 10 or 12. Huh. So your odds aren't great, but it's incredible. And the beauty is that in the Seychelles, we have 3 different species. So we have the most beautiful trigger, which is the smallest, which is probably the size of your hand, which is called the Picasso triggerfish. And then we have the moustache triggerfish, or people call them the Titan. It's got a black, almost looks like a moustache on the top of its lips, on the top of its mouth. They generally grow the biggest, but they grow the biggest mostly offshore. So our bigger triggerfish we catch on the flats are generally our yellow margin, which I think are the most beautiful triggerfish on this planet. I mean, they're incredible. It's like a painting of pink, blue, and green. They've got wonderful sickle tails, but all 3 of them have the same attitude. They all destroy flies. They all have a proper attitude. You don't want to eat the fingers once you land them anywhere near them. But I mean, if you catch one of them during the week, it really adds to the experience. And when you speak about the Seychelles, you speak about all the species. And if you want the experience to go to a place where it's not just sort of focusing on one species, Seychelles is a place. You get the opportunity to focus on all the different species, and the opportunity during a week to catch all the different species. So, you can really have a great trip and tick off, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 species in a week.
Yeah, and other species, just to name a few, include everything from snapper to grouper to barracuda, wahoo, because you've got some offshore action too, Indo-Pacific sailfish, marlin, and then the list goes on. Bluefin trevally, of course, a kind of a spectacularly colored trevally species that I think is quite commonly seen there. Yeah, so there's a hell of a lot of bluefin trevally. They a lot more. There's a lot more of them than giant trevally. They're all over the place. They're on all the flats. Great species to catch. Incredible on smaller flies. And then you obviously have all the other species. All the snapper, which you catch in similar areas, just at the edges. We have the jobfish. And of course, then we also have really, really big barracuda. So when you're generally fishing for shoals of bonefish, you'll have 1 or 2 big barracuda, 6, 7 footers, which hang about waiting to have a go to bonefish. Keith, with all of these species, what gear considerations should anglers make, from rods to reels? And I know that there are other things too, with attire, with apparel for performance on walking flats all day.
Yeah, I mean, the most important thing is obviously the rigging of your gear. So you've got to have really strong saltwater reel and rod, fly rod, obviously, something that can handle the various different species. So we'll start with a 12 weight for a giant trevally. You can fish at 11 weight if you prefer. And then we'd suggest either a 9 or a 10 weight for all the other species. The only reason why we don't suggest an 8 weight is because sometimes there can be a little bit of wind, and we like to fish crab flies, and it's quite difficult to present a crab fly into the wind. So generally we suggest 9, 10, and a 12. And then or obviously saltwater proof reels and rods. So they must be able to handle the salt water. And then the next most important thing is obviously a break. The reels, the break on the reel must be smooth, and on the 12 weight must have an ability to apply extreme amounts of pressure, not your average freshwater amounts of pressure, and not a reel which can flex, when you apply that amount of pressure with the drag. So then, obviously, as I said, it's quite important to have the rigging done correctly. So we fish braided backing. On the 12 weight, we'll fish 80 pounds. So that just gives you a little bit more buffering when you have a GT that goes around a piece of coral and so forth. But then on the 9 and the 10, we'll fish 50 pound braid. You have to have a minimum of 300 yards, 250 to 300 yards of 80 pounds for giant trevally. And then on the 50 pound rigs, you only need a couple hundred meters of braided 50 pound on there. Then transition between the backing, the braided backing, and the fly line has to be a double bimini, or a bimini to double surgeon, and then we use braided loops on the 12 weight, 50 to 80 pound braided loop, fastened to the fly line with a double nail knot. For the 10 weight and the 9 weight, you can use the welded loops. They're strong enough for those species, because we don't have to apply as much pressure on those species. And then obviously for the front of the 12 weight for giant trevally, we do the same thing. We put a braided loop on the front with 2 nail knots, often fishing a straight piece of 80 pound fluorocarbon or 100 to 120 pound monofilament. Then on the 9 and the 10, we're generally fishing anything between 12 pound and 30 pounds, depending on the species. There on the front of those lines, you can also have your welded loops as well. They're plenty strong enough, because obviously the leader is what determines what breaking strain you will have. Obviously the Seychelles, predominantly you're fishing on foot. So it's very important to have a good pair of wading boots. I generally fish a pair of wading boots with a neoprene inner inside, and then I will fish, I'll put a set of gravel guards over those. The reason why we use gravel guards in Seychelles in the sand is because obviously when you're wading long periods of time during the day, you get sand inside your neoprene socks. You get a bit of chafe, and in the tropics, anything that's been cut or anything that's been chafed or rubbed generally gets infected. So you obviously need to make sure you take as many precautionary measures to make sure you don't get sand inside your boots. So that's why we use the gravel guards. From a tire point of view, we generally wear shorts or zip-off longs or longs, lightweight longs. Then obviously your general light-colored, natural-colored sort of tops. And the next most important thing is obviously having a really good waterproof backpack. Everything goes in your backpack when you go on your walks: your water bottles, your fly boxes, your rain jacket, if a squall comes through, spare leader and so forth, and your camera. So, the weather changes quite quickly in the Seychelles, where you can have, 35 degrees. It's very still, very hot and balmy, and the next minute you have a rain squall which will come through and can be quite chilly. But they generally move through quite quickly, but you can get rain. So it's important to make sure that all your equipment is kept nice and safe inside a good waterproof backpack. And then we generally have a pair of pliers on us to take the hooks out of the triggerfish's mouth and push the barbs and the GT's mouth. And then really, really good pair of Polaroid sunglasses. We like to use the green amber or an amber colored lens. It's something that can pick up the different colors in the water. A gray lens doesn't really work for us. You can use it, but it's not the best out there. You'll see you get a lot more. You can see the different species a lot easier with the amber lens. I.e., you can see the pinks in the water, or the orange, or the different colors of the fish as you see them on the turtle grass flats and so forth. So we like an amber colored pair of sunglasses. And obviously with a pair, with a lanyard on the back, so that when you're dealing with a fish, it doesn't fall off your head into the water and so forth. For low lights, we like the sunrise yellow lens. It does make a difference when you have overcast. We still fish when it's overcast. We still fish when it's raining. We still fish when it's windy. We just put the wind to our backs and we keep fishing. The only thing that will change, we'll fish, obviously way more white flats and so forth. But funny enough, on windy, overcast days, the fish down the flats longer, you might be a little bit more difficult to see them, but they're there and you catch them. Yeah, that's basically it in a nutshell.
That's great. Just going over the gear list makes you think about all the potential for targeting all these different species on these flats. Keith, this was great. I've been wanting to have this conversation with you for, I think, a few years, and so I appreciate you taking the time, and I look forward to at some point getting out there and seeing this for myself. And for those who want to learn more, be sure to check out the Alphonse Fishing Company at alphonsefishingco.com, on Instagram at Alphonse Fishing Co., and then on Facebook at Alphonse Island Fishing. Thanks, Keith.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, great chatting.